Hey you guys, welcome back or welcome to another vlog. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Ashley. If not, welcome back. Thank you guys for watching. I am always really grateful that people want to take the time to listen to what I have to say. I'm just really grateful. So this season that I am in my life, I want to offer you guys just really valuable content. I thought today would be based off of my last vlog where I talked about my high-risk pregnancy. Well, it was 2 vlogs ago. It was when I announced I was pregnant. I got some messages about other people being high risk as well and wanting to follow along with the journey because they don't know other people or they may feel alone in this. And I know that when I opened up the door into this whole new world, I felt really alone. And I did turn to, just besides articles and talking with doctors, to YouTube to listen to what other people were going through in their high-risk pregnancies. And so if you tumble along this video and it gives you a little bit of peace of mind, I know that I'm offering the most valuable content, because if it only helps one person, like I know that I needed it to help me, it's all that matters. Today I thought it would be a good idea to talk about my experience with this pregnancy and getting a cerclage. Before this experience, I did not know what a high-risk pregnancy entailed, but I also had no idea that a cerclage was even an option. I didn't know anything about it. I still think it's mind-blowing that I didn't know anything about premature labor or premature birth, just because, it is so rare and I don't know anybody that has gone through it. I obviously know now. Never thinking that it was a possibility or knowing anything about that world, and looking now and looking back, not that you could ever be prepared for anything like this, but looking back, I wish I would have had some sort of clue. But I don't even know if it's possible sometimes, So I want to give you guys a little bit of background. I was thinking about how I wanted to do this. Do I want to split it up into certain parts to kind of just give you a background? Because I feel like whether you're high risk or not, your story can be not only relatable to somebody, but inspiring, or just to make people feel less alone. The craziest thing to me, especially as women, is that we feel alone in so many things, which is odd because there's no one story that's alike. I feel like it should be the exact opposite. And so again, like I said, I just want to be that. So a little bit of background, if you have not watched the previous vlogs, definitely go back and watch them so you can get updated on everything. But if not, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. So I'm currently 21 weeks pregnant, and this is my 3rd pregnancy. I have 2 boys and a 3rd on the way, and boy mom is just, the energy is on point. I was telling the nurse yesterday, people assume that you want a girl, I think, or it would be vice versa. If you have all girls, they assume you want a boy, but just the boy energy for me is just where it's at. So I don't know, maybe one day God will want to give us a little girl, but we couldn't be happier to have 3 little boys soon running around this house. My first pregnancy was your typical pregnancy, you know what that means, and I didn't have any complications during that pregnancy. Literally the only thing that I struggled with, I feel like, that I can remember is heartburn, and my water broke. I went full term. I actually had him on my due date. I dilated, I progressed, everything happened really fast. I really think that if he wasn't stuck, I would have had him at the drop of a dime, but he ended up getting stuck in my pelvis and there was just no way for him to move. So I had a C-section. It wasn't an emergency C-section because he wasn't in distress and I wasn't in distress. My doctor was so gentle and so loving and so supportive and was like, you can labor as long as you want till you decide that you are ready for a C-section. And I remember saying to him, what are the odds of the baby moving or getting out of this position? Sorry, my air conditioning is so loud. Now it's quiet. And he said it is slim to none. You would need a miracle. And at that point I was so exhausted from laboring, I didn't even think I could push a baby out. So I accepted the C-section. Everything was just chill. We went back there. They actually almost forgot my husband. I'm like, where is my husband? They went and got him. And I remember being so fearful of being able to feel something, like anything, because I've heard so many horror stories that I kind of was downplaying, you know, not being able to feel certain things. So I remember I was like, I can definitely feel that. And it was more like a pinch. But again, I was terrified because even though it was chill and not emergent, I still was so fearful of a C-section, which I want to talk about. And I remember the anesthesiologist gave me some kind of shot and I was out. So I wasn't put to sleep, but I don't know what he gave me. I was out. And I remember Colin, my husband, bringing over our baby, my first baby, and I couldn't see. Everything was so blurry and I couldn't see his face. And I just remember being so drugged out that I couldn't enjoy the moment. Like, there was no pictures. I couldn't be in that moment. And actually, I guess I didn't even know this, but there was a resident that was in there and he actually passed out. I remember going to the next room. It wasn't like our room, but they put you in probably like a halfway situation. And I remember everybody met the baby before I even did, and I was still passed out. And I remember waking up and not even really being able to hold him or really be there mentally because I had so much drugs. And when we were taken to, this was really the hardest part for me, when we were taken to our room that we'd be staying in, I remember my aunt came and I was looking rough because when my water broke, I thought I was gonna, you know, labor at home a little bit and give myself time and eat a meal and then head to the hospital. But everything progressed so fast. After I jumped in the shower to shave my legs, I was brought to the ground by the contractions because they were just so close together. And I literally rode in the front seat on all fours screaming while Colin is driving on the thruway trying to get to the hospital. And I was looking rough, and so my aunt was so sweet. She came in, she brushed my hair, she put a little bit of makeup on for me just to kind of feel a little bit, you know, alive as a human being. And, you know, you want to take pictures. And I remember my other aunt came in and she makes these really thoughtful, beautiful wreaths for everybody, for every occasion. So thoughtful. And she brought this blue wreath, and I have it somewhere. I'll have to show you guys one day. But she brought this blue wreath, and it had this little chalkboard heart glued to it. And it had his name and his weight and what time he was born and the date and, you know, his height and all of that. And I remember looking at it, and I've never shared this with anyone until much later, but I remember wanting to just break down. And it sounds so silly, but if you go through something like that, or maybe something similar, maybe something different, but you felt like your feelings weren't validated, or it was just the hormones, but like, no, you just had a baby. And I wasn't awake to hear that, you know, it wasn't that storybook thing that we all have in our head that we like push our babies out and pull them and put them on our chest and they latch and start breastfeeding, and, you know, that experience and being so unprepared, not understanding what my options were for a C-section, or having so much fear instilled around a C-section, or, you know, just not being educated enough on what my options were, how I could have a beautiful C-section birth, because you can, I do believe you can. And I remember feeling so devastated that I, as his mom, didn't even know those things. And still, that's really what sticks with me the most. That is where I go back and say, we have all, no matter what it looks like from the outside to you, we all have our own stories. And in this season of my life, I'm continuing to remind myself to live in my story, because cheesy enough, like, I'm the author and this was the story that God gave me, and it's beautiful to him, and so it should be beautiful to me, no matter how many ups and downs. And I have to remind myself sometimes every minute of every day. Sometimes I throw it out the window and I forget. I think that's what makes us human. And I think as women, we need to remind ourselves that, and obviously right now, this is me at my best talking to you guys. I want you to remember that. This is me at my best talking to you about my past experiences that were not me at my best, and learning from them. And I think that no matter what, and I said this in the last vlogs, and I'm probably gonna say it because that's the season, whether it's fertility, pregnancy, birth, or postpartum, parenthood, like whatever it is for you, we all have our struggles. We all have things that we are struggling with. So no matter what it looks like on the outside to you, understand that there's no perfect story for anybody. There's just not. So we have to own and live in our own truth and understand that even though we might be struggling with, for me, during this pregnancy, and looking at other people and seeing that they're having this perfect pregnancy and everything's beautiful, maybe it took them a long journey to get there. Or maybe, somebody's gonna struggle and have a really difficult birth, or maybe postpartum is gonna be really hard, or maybe parenthood, they're gonna struggle, and so we have to just be kind and respectful and understand that we need to look within and own our own stories and understand that everything is gonna work out no matter what struggle that you're in. I feel you. Trust me, I feel you. That was my first, which was a typical pregnancy, right? And then my second was a typical pregnancy. Got pregnant on the first try with both of my first, or my first two, and very, very fortunate, very lucky. And since I had a typical pregnancy, I keep saying that, I just went about my business. And at that point, I had opened up a cycling studio. I was running a business. I had a toddler at home, and we decided to have another baby. I was working out. I was in the best shape of my life, definitely not nutritionally, but working out a lot and staying busy and running a business. And it brought me a lot of joy. And so during that time, everything was normal. I didn't go through anything crazy. I went to the doctor's on a Friday. Everything was good for my checkup. I don't think I got a sonogram, but everything was perfect, normal, feeling great, feeling normal, pregnancy aches and pains. And then I ended up on Sunday having what I didn't know at that moment, but I feel like now that I look back, it's like it was very obvious to me. I have never had labor, or I've never had stomach contractions, but I've had really bad back labor with my first and then my second. So I went in for a normal day at work, was having some back pain that was on and off. It was coming and it was going. So that's really what a contraction is. It's coming and going. I called my doctor, I talked to the midwife. She said, go home, rest, keep your feet up, kick your feet up. I went on, taught a whole class. I still don't know how I did that. Went home, laid down. At that night, my husband and my father were going an hour away to an MMA fight. And I was like, you know what, go, we're good. My mom came over, we had some takeout. She hung out with my oldest. And I just laid on the heating pad. She ended up leaving once my son went to bed. And my husband got home. And I just laid on that heating pad, but it just progressively got worse. And at that point, my mom was only a street away. A few weeks prior, I had blood in my urine, and I ended up having a UTI that I didn't have any signs of, which is what I believe led me to this situation, but we'll never know. So I called my mom. I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I obviously was not gonna drag my husband out of bed. I wanted him home with our toddler and thought that I would be home in a couple hours. So my mom picked me up. We went to the hospital. And I remember in triage where you check in, she's like, we can't do anything for back pain. I'm like, I know, but I just want to get checked out to make sure I have to live with this. So the doctor comes in, does the whole 9 yards, just every test, runs everything. Everything was perfect. We did a sonogram, everything's beautiful. And the last thing she did was check me. She did a cervical check, and she said, how are you feeling right now? And I'm like, my back hurts pretty bad. And she's like, you're 5 centimeters dilated. And at that moment, my entire life changed, right? My entire life changed. I remember my mom was just sitting there playing some game, clueless, we're gonna be home in a couple hours, no biggie, I'll just sleep in tomorrow. I don't wanna say the panic set in, but the shock definitely set in. Not just for me, but definitely the staff. They rolled me so fast to a room, got me hooked up to everything. I know they give you, I forgot what they give. They give you something, obviously besides fluids, but I got like a magnesium shot, I want to say it is. I can't remember. And my mom's trying to get a hold of my husband and my dad and, you know, somebody to go and watch my toddler at my house. And it just was very shocking and scary, and it was in the middle of the night. So my husband gets there. I remember he's throwing up in the bathroom, terrified. You know, I always feel so bad for the spouses, because it's like, obviously we're going through it, but it's so hard for the people that love us to see us go through that. So I remember when his mom got there, I'm like, can you scoop him right up, because he definitely needs his mommy right now. And everybody got to the hospital, and I remember there were so many specialists that were in and out, just kind of preparing us for what was to come. And again, the panic didn't set in. It was more shock. Like, it was like, what is going on? Is this real? What is happening? And they're giving us these percentages, and, you know, where I'm at that point, I was 28 weeks, which is really the best place that you want to be. You know, there's babies that are born before that make it, but at 28 weeks, I think that's the first day of your third trimester, like the first week of your third trimester. So I was really lucky to be there, but still, we didn't know what was ahead. We didn't know, because the baby's not fully developed at that point. So all these doctors are coming in, and the one specialist came in. He was like the head honcho, and his name was Dr. Albert. And I remember at that point feeling like it was just a sign, because my grandfather's name was Albert, and my first has his middle name. And I remember just feeling like it was just a sign. It was a sign. Sorry, I promised I was not gonna cry. And I don't remember how long after getting to the hospital I had him, but I remember my OB coming in and telling me, you know, like, there's nothing like a woman. There's just nothing like another woman in there, and you're surrounded by all these women. And there were so many people in the room, because they're preparing for, you know, all these complications. You just don't know. I labored, you know, I did get an epidural. I labored beautifully, and I was trying that pregnancy for a vaginal birth. So it's called a VBAC, vaginal birth after cesarean. My doctor was really supportive of it, and so she came in and she just touched me, and there's just something about a woman's touch, and she just was like, this is the most traumatic, hardest, saddest, but most beautiful day, you know, of your life, and I'm here with you. And it just meant a lot. So Colin was in the room, my mother was in the room, and I had my VBAC, and I remember them telling me, you know, you're not going to be able to hold him, that was, you know, add that to the list. Not being able to hold your baby. And so I achieved this VBAC, and I had him vaginally, and it was not a long labor. I still don't even remember. It was not long, maybe 20-30 minutes of pushing. And this little 2-pound, 2-ounce baby was born, and I remember the nurse ended up handing him to me for 2 seconds and then taking him off. And you know, you have all these drugs, and you're on this adrenaline. You just had this baby, and, you know, all these people are now coming in, and they whisk your baby away, which is not what it's supposed to be like. And I remember at that moment still being in shock, still not understanding what was going on. And I couldn't see him for a few hours. I obviously had to, you know, get weaned off of the meds and get everything taken out, get up, go to the bathroom, and then he was getting hooked up to everything. And when that Dr. Albert came in, this is the part that I forgot. I have to add in. He came in and he was talking about studies and percentages and whatever else of a 28-weeker. I remember he offered for my family, because obviously I couldn't, to go up to the NICU and to see the babies. And I remember looking at them, because they were hesitant. I said, I need you guys to all go up there together, because I need you to see what lies ahead, because I'm gonna need you to be strong for me. And I remember the devastation when they came back down, especially my dad was. But that was really, really, really hard for all of them to see the devastation. Again, still in shock. To see the devastation was unexplainable. We go up, I get admitted to my room, and then they're like, okay, he's ready. And this was hours later. Hours. You just have this baby. you're told all of these terrifying things, and you're separated, and then you go in and we see our son in this box, an incubator, hooked up to all of these different things, so tiny, just tubes down his throat and his nose, and again, still kind of in shock, I guess, that all of this stuff happened. And you have a million questions, and you're still trying to be grateful, and you're meeting all these different people that are going to be taking care of your baby, strangers, when your baby should be with you. And I remember getting discharged from the hospital in a panic. That's when it really hit me, like, how am I going to, at that point I was so lucky to have a supportive people at my business. And I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to juggle my toddler, me and my husband getting there every day, and my husband working and having a full-time job, and at that point he had a landscaping business, and my emotions and a newborn. Like, I want to be here with my newborn every single day. I'm supposed to, but I obviously am not. I have to be with my toddler too. And it just was the longest, most traumatic road that I've ever been on. I remember feeling so alone, nobody to share the things that I was going through, the emotions, the struggles, what I was feeling inside. A mother being separated from her baby. We weren't even able to hold him until weeks after that, because he couldn't come out of the incubator. And going home and sleeping at night and not having your baby next to you, it's so hard to be a mother and have a newborn, and you're not sleeping, and your boobs hurt, and you're pumping, and you're nursing, or you're bottle feeding, and the spit ups and the changes. But that's a part of motherhood. That struggle is a part of motherhood, and I was robbed of it. And I just felt so empty. The second that I would get my son down for his nap, I would just cry my eyes out. And I remember my husband coming home, Colin coming home, and it was his turn to go to the hospital and spend a few hours. We can only spend a few hours, sometimes 5-6 hours. And he would come upstairs and just hug me, and he'd be like, I want you to go. I want you to go. And there were so many times that he sacrificed him going so that I could go, because he just understood. And again, I feel so bad for our partners, and they're often forgotten, because they try their best and they try to hold it together and stay strong for you. And they're in the same situation, Well, a couple things that I learned from those two leading up to this one was some tangible tips, just like Lauren from the Skinny Confidential says. She always says, I need some tangible tips. Is that number one, look into a C-section. It doesn't have to be a negative situation. I believe that although I think we should all be having our babies at home and, in the garden and, nourishing ourselves and not getting epidurals and all of these certain things, there is a time and a place for modern medicine, and we're so lucky to have these things. And so I definitely think that in a situation like mine, you can easily have a beautiful C-section and not look back and have it be that way. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate or fancy, but having a beautiful C-section, and I'll say it again, is totally possible. So educate yourself on what that could look like for you. Watch beautiful, positive C-section experiences and educate yourself. Educate. The second thing is having a supportive doctor, one that has compassion, love. If they say anything that is not compassionate to you, get out. You can switch your provider at any time. Ask around, it's an interview. They work for you. You don't work for them. And understand that you need somebody that is going to be compassionate. I was so lucky to have a compassionate OBGYN. And he had 6 kids himself. He was part of the practice. He was not my OBGYN. He was the one that was on call. I never have preferred to see men. I just feel like women just, they've been through it. They understand. And not all, I understand, but he was the one that was on call for my C-section. He was the most compassionate, loving, gentle, understanding human being. And the only thing that went wrong was that I didn't educate myself on what a C-section could look like, because you just sometimes don't think that it can happen to you, and you're not prepared because you don't understand what you're going to go through. So educate, educate, educate. Have a supportive provider. It's possible. There's so many different options out there, you guys. You know, it's totally possible. I know it's possible for you. And my third thing is not only educating yourself on that, but educating yourself on the possibility, or maybe talk to your doctor, even though it is still so rare. And I'm not doing this video for anybody that is in a typical pregnancy to instill fear or anything, because it's not as fearful as a process if you are educated. We already have so many worries as, you know, during our pregnancies, that this is not another worry to add to somebody, or I'm not putting my story onto anybody else, but I'm sharing my story for you to understand that we all, again, go through something no matter what it is. So those are really my tangible tips that I want to give you guys, and encouragement and understanding, and just to send you love, so that you know you're not alone, because it can be so isolating, and you can naturally want to isolate yourself. And the people that love you, that are around you, that are trying to support you and show you love, they just don't, as much as they try to understand, and they don't know maybe what to say, they just could never truly understand. And so it just can be really, really isolating. I know even on the floor that I was on, I thought I was gonna have this like tribe behind me of other moms that were going through the same thing that I was going through, and we were all just gonna hug each other and kumbaya and be in this support group. And that just didn't happen for me, and that's okay. But here I am, you guys. I'm living proof I made it out of the situation. It only made me stronger, and I'm presented with a new situation, and that's why I just feel called to share it and be honest and raw and truthful. And because even though what we're going through is so rare, there's still some of us that are going through it, and it's just not, there's so many things in life that are just really not talked about enough. Trust your intuition, trust your gut. Nobody knows your body more than you do, and then we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next vlog, part 2. Nobody knows your body. Nobody knows what you've been through. Your body knows best. You were made to do this. God made you to have a baby, you guys. God didn't make this to be a fearful thing. Our surroundings make it fearful. Listening to other stories and taking them on as our own made us fearful. And it just isn't supposed to be fearful. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be scary. They're supposed to be unknown. Not scary in the same way as fearful, but it's supposed to. It's supposed to be a process. It's supposed to be a welcoming into, you know, a motherhood. You're bringing life into this world, you know? And so try your best to take the fear out of it. Educate yourself. Ask the questions. Ask all the questions, and don't ask them to Google. Listen to stories. Ask your mother. Ask your grandmother. Ask your doctor. Ask women who have been through these things, and talk to them and listen to them and connect with them. Have a strong birth team, you guys. Have a strong support team. If these people are going to be strangers, you know, back in the day, I want to suggest a podcast to you guys. Back in the day, and this is where I got it from. Back in the day, women were surrounded by their mothers, their grandmothers, their tribe, you know, people that they know that loved and supported them and shared that energy. And so create that in the birth room, and don't accept anything less, because you're in charge of your birth. These people are working for you. You're not working for them. This podcast was on the Skinny Confidential, and I will link it down below. I will link the number, but she's a midwife, and she shared, you know, go in there with an open mind, educate yourself. You know, even though she's a home birther, I'm having a hospital birth, and I still, you know, wanted to hear what she had to say. She's been to over 3,000 births, participated in them. She has a beautiful story. She has really good information that she shared. So I'm going to link it down below. I think it's important for you. But she talked about that, and she talked about the energy in the room, and how we're, you know, birthing with, you know, this beautiful process with strangers. And so we have to do our best to protect that energy. We have everything that we need. And lastly, this thing that I've been holding on to, and I've been telling myself, it's been my mantra these last few days, as I've, you know, I'll talk about in the next vlog, have come to struggle with in these last appointments. If this baby, and this is what I'm telling myself, if this baby is meant to be here, there is nothing in the universe that can stop this baby from being here. And it's just the way, it's just my belief. It's my belief in the universe. And sure, it's easy for me to say maybe in this moment right now, there's nothing that's gonna stop the universe from bringing this baby into the world. All of my fears. I'm gonna talk about that in part 2 for sure, because I have many fears with this pregnancy, but it's just been my mantra. So thank you guys for watching. I'm so appreciative. I hope that you could take some knowledge from this. I hope it inspires you. I hope it moves you. I hope it makes you feel better, like you're not alone. I want you to own your story, step into your story, and do a damn good job in that story, because you deserve it, and it's gonna happen for you no matter what season you're in. So I will see you in part 2. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'm sending you love. I've got you.
Never not, never under yard, never ever, I'm forever on. Check my repertoire, check my repertoire, don't check me not. Unless it's checks involved, I've been feeling like I'm next to God. Next to God, next to God. Never not, never under yard, never ever, I'm forever on. Check my repertoire, don't check me not. Unless it's checks involved, I've been feeling like I'm next to God. Next to God, next to God. Never fold, never ever fold, never ever stone a rolling stone till I'm in Rolling Stone. Bet I'm close to gold, need a place, need a safer bank. I've been saving change, I need some space. Chatting in my face, get from around my way. Ay, what you saying, where you at now? I swear that once I leave my city, never coming back down. Wait, from pushing tapes to glowing up around the map now. Real hot summer, keep my cool, I never act out. Ay, yes indeed, recognize what you want may not be what you need. Won't take control of me, but